setting up a web server on Red Hat Linux. So what do we understand by a web server? A web server is a software and a software application that runs in the background and serves the web pages. And the components that we require to set up this web server are, first of all, the package HTTPD, then the system service HTTPD.service, and then we have to set up the firewall. And Apache web server, it is pretty secure because it runs on AC Linux, that provides the most secure service in Linux. And also we require the default document root for the web server. And by default document root, I mean the file that default document root is /var/www//html that is required. And also the prerequisites, first of all, we need the IP address of the server machine. We can get that by typing the command ifconfig. It will give us the IP config. And the server, the host name, we have to provide a host name of the server, obviously. And then we need to name the server, such as server A. And it should all be done in the file name etc/hosts in Linux. Now I would like to hand over to Rajdeep to continue the next part of web server setting up the default document root. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushal, for having me. Now I can explain the default document root. As you can see, for installation the default document root, at first we install for HTTP package and enabling the HTTP service, and then setting up the firewall of web service. This web service firewall are adjusted to allow HTTP and then traffic through the system firewall. And the next part is adding HTML content to document root. In next slide. Previous slide. As you can see, the adding HTML content in default document root is a particular in code base, and the final is testing the web content in browser. Please show the slide. As you can see, the web content browser in our screen. Thank you, and next to forward one time Kushal to explain the customized document root.
Thank you, Rajdeep. So we have customized document root. How do we enable that in Apache web server? So first of all, we need to create a new directory and provide a default document root folder and set up a default document root configuration file on that. So here is the configured folder. We have chosen etc/httpd config file. We have to open that file and we have to type in this code, and we have to give our properly, we have to provide our HTML page, that is index.html. There should be proper concatenation between each line, or else it wouldn't work. Now here we have to check the syntax if there are any error we have committed in the code, and we have to switch over to the Windows machine to see if our website is working correctly or not. First of all, we are going to type the IP address. It will show us this is example.com, and with the domain name that is we have chosen example.com, that it is clearly working.
Yes, Kushal, what is the default port number of HTTP and HTTPS?
Default port number of HTTP is 80 and HTTPS, that is secure, is 443.
What is the difference between two? Because almost function is the same. So what is the difference?
Good afternoon, everyone, respected teachers and my dear friends. I am honored to present our major project based on Linux server configuration. We have 4 of the members in there. So let me go to the introduction of our project. Our project is primarily focused on installation, configuration and management of several key factors. Several key factors component essentials for this project are database, data server, mail server, and NFS.
What is your role in this project?
My role in this project is about to tell you NFS.
Okay, so what we can do using NFS?
We use NFS for transfer file over the network.
Okay, so what networking components we need to success this project, to successfully run this server?
We have to install NFS first of all.
Yes.
Second, we have to mount, and
Okay,
like this we can go on.
good. And what is the role of your other team members?
This is my introduction. For mine, this is only introduction.
Yes.
And I will hand over this to Tuhin Debna to go
Okay,
to the
Tuhin.
next part.
Okay.
Thank you, Bubasha. Let me explain the next part. DNS server type actually, please come forward. DNS server type. Okay, thank you. DNS server type actually, here are four mainly server types. That is recursive server type and TDS name server type and authoritative server type. And these are the information about next slide. These are the information about the DNS server types, and we can be configure the servers in two way. We can configure the server type in two way. One is forward lookup, and one is reverse lookup. And in forward lookup, we can be find the domain name through the IP address. Like in phone directory, we can be search our phone number through the contact name, as well as like we can be search our contact name through the phone number. So in reverse lookup, we can be find our domain name through the IP address. So the next step and the procedure how it work will be explained my next team member Nirupam. Thank you. I would like to request to hand over the next part, Nirupam.
Thank you, Jamil Rahman, to explaining the DNS server type and the DNS server config rewards. And I am going to explain the DNS server configuration, how to configure the DNS server in a Linux. So there is a kind of a component we are getting. So first of all, the component is like a package which is known as a bind D. That is a bind D, and the system D services which is using is known as a DNS, and the firewall service which is known as the firewall D service is known as the DNS also. The main configuration file which is known as the name.conf, and the DNS zone data is stored in middle name. The DNS domain name will be stored in the name file, in the var/name file, and the main configuration file where the IP addresses and the domain name will be configured in the name.conf file. So here you can see there is a kind of an example we are getting down. You can see that there is an IP address server which has an IP address version 4, and now we are giving a host name which is known as a server.example.com. Now I will going to configure this IP address with the domain name. So how we can do that? First of all, we are going to use the etf/has host file using the Linux server to configure the Linux to make the DNS server to configure it. So first of all, we using the file for configuring the DNS server and giving the IP address to their own configured domain name. And after that, we are using for a proper syntax. We are using the Windows, and you can see that. You can see there is a kind of giving the IP address and with the domain name. Now like Jamil explained the forward lookup and the reverse lookup. Now we can see the reverse looking. We are going to install the reverse and diamond looking. So first of all, there is a configuration of the primary DNS server, which is known as. First of all, the primary DNS server is starting with the binding package. So now the binding package will be installed, and after that we will be installing the firewall. And firewall, after installing the firewall, we will configure the firewall and enabling the name services. After enabling the name services, you can see that the setting of the firewall. There is a setting of the firewall. The command are using it is the firewall cmd permanent. we can use that. You can see that they are adding the service that is known as NFS and DNS. We are adding that, and after that we are reloading the firewall to make it a proper configured with that. And after the configured the firewall, now we can able to set up the DNS server with their own the domain name. Now we can see that the configuration has a name config file. Now can use it. There is a kind of a data already stored in a name that called as file, and now we are using the configuration file with that. So we already get the PS reason for IP address, and we have a kind of a domain name which was I want to give it. So we are now giving the directory name and the main configuration file name. After that, we are giving the domain name, and after that, we can give the IP addresses. Now you can see that after the IP address giving, we are using the logging kind of a command to giving the zone area, which is known as a kind of a river and reversing and zoning and reversing. That means in this area you can see we can zoning the configuration file down. Now you can see there is a kind of a name as you can in the Linux that when we check the configuration file in that, now you can see that there is a kind of a two things we have created, which is not the example.com as a forwarded and the example.com in the reverse view. So right now the file is configured but it's not in portable. So how can we do looking at that? So after that we are configuring first the forward lookup to giving the domain name to the IP address. So right now I am giving that in this area the file is already mentioned on the Linux. We are now configuring and changing some kind of a directory on that, and after that giving the servers to their ID. You will getting the IP address, but there is a missing of a domain name. So in a forwarding we get the IP address, but in a reverse we will giving the server's name, which is known as a domain name, and after that the forward lookup and the reverse lookup got configured and started with the other services ports. And after that we can use the for IP address as a domain name and domain name as an IP address, which is known as known as a DNS server. Now we can after that are using the syntax in the Windows. So you can see that after the syntax in the Windows we are getting kind of a DNS server, and after searching the server example.com we are getting IP address, and after the searching the IP address we are getting a server's domain name.